morning. Welcome. It is great to have you all back here in our 30 Rock home. This has been a truly historic week, obviously. There is now formally and officially House-ratified impeachment inquiry into the President of the United States. You guys are fans, I see. And it is, honestly, it's even clearer now after yesterday's vote that the President of the United States is almost certainly going to be impeached. And that is because the president's own actions. I mean, the president corruptly abused his power in attempting to coerce an occupied foreign country, Ukraine, to manufacture dirt on an American citizen. And not just any American citizen, his own political rival. Now, there has been one defense from the White House of the president's actions from the beginning, and that is no quid pro quo, right? I actually have a theory about this, that at some point someone, maybe a lawyer, maybe someone pretending to be a lawyer, told Donald Trump that quid pro quo is like a magic phrase with this negative incantory power. And if you say it in the commission of your extortion, then it's illegal and bad. But as long as you say no quid pro quo, anything you do or say is fine. It's like how some people think they can say just like no offense but and then insult you. Remember, all quid pro quo is literally just this for that, right? I will give you this, you give me that. It is the most elemental form of corruption, of bribery, of extortion. And we know contemporaneously, while carrying off what we are going to show you was definitely quid pro quo, the Trump squad's cover story has been that there was no quid pro quo. Quid pro quo, this for that, quid pro quo, is also the standard that Republicans have set for what would constitute an impeachable crime, right? Now, I want to be clear here. I don't think you need to show quid pro quo for the president's behavior to be impeachable. He corruptly abused his power to coerce an occupied country to meddle in our election and investigate an American citizen. That infraction in and of itself meets, in my humble opinion, the threshold for high crimes and misdemeanors. But that said, it is important to note that quid pro quo is the threshold that Trump and his allies have set the bar at, right? If you get over that bar, you are in impeachment territory. Get us up to date on what's going on.
No quid pro quo.
No one believes there are any quid pro quo.
What we do know is there was definitely no quid pro quo.
Absolutely no quid pro quo.
Absolutely no quid pro quo.
No quid pro quo here whatsoever.
There was no quid pro quo.
No quid pro quo.
No quid pro quo.
There was no quid pro quo.
There is no pro quo.
If you could show me that, Trump actually was engaging in a quid pro quo outside the phone call, that would be very disturbing.
Okay, that's an interesting thing to say, right? So Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, he's the president's golfing buddy. He's one of the most devoted and self-abasing acolytes of the president, who himself says, here's the standard of evidence to show me evidence of quid pro quo outside the phone call, and then that's disturbing. So, Senator Graham, if you're watching us, we will now present 9 damning pieces of evidence that show quid pro quo. Okay? Here we go. Now, number one, with apologies to the senator from South Carolina, we do have to start with the phone call itself, okay? The phone call that Trump keeps saying is perfect. So perfect that he wants to read it live on TV as a fireside chat, apparently. On that call, the president does not say to the Ukrainian president, this is my quid, and that is your quo. The president of Ukraine says we need military assistance, basically, to defend ourselves from the occupying country, Russia, that is literally killing our soldiers. And Trump immediately responds, I would like you to do us a favor, though. This for that. Military assistance for investigations into my political rivals. It's like if you needed protection, let's just say hypothetically, from, say, like the Russian mob, okay? And you go to your local New York mob boss for protection. He says, sure, I will protect you. But I would like you to do us a favor, though. That is not an ask from the mob boss. That is not a polite request from the mob boss. That is the mob boss enunciating the conditions of your protection. That's what happened in the phone call. The phone call itself is quid pro quo. The quid is military assistance. That at that point was already being held up in exchange for the quo, which is the investigations into Biden and the DNC. But okay, all right. Lindsey Graham says, not good enough. He wants something outside the phone call. So here's what we got. Number 2, the top U.S. diplomat in Ukraine, a guy named Bill Taylor, text messages a Trump appointee, U.S. ambassador to the EU, Gordon Sondland, who is a Trump donor and is up to his elbows in this shadow foreign policy. And Taylor messages him, are we now saying that security assistance in a White House meeting are conditioned on investigations? That word conditioned, that's the quid pro quo right there, right? And Sondland, not wanting to leave a written record of crime, responds, quote, call me. Number 3, last week, same guy, Bill Taylor, testified before the Impeachment House Committee and said that the Trump appointee, same guy, Gordon Sondland, who's an amazing character, by the way, told him that Ukraine needed to announce investigations, not just start them. He needed to announce investigations into the Bidens in exchange for security assistance. Here's the quote. Ambassador Sondland said, everything was dependent on such an announcement, including security assistance. Dependent, conditioned. That's the quid pro quo. Everything was dependent on it. Number 4, that might surprise you. This one is Gordon Sondland, the Trump appointee, who has said over and over again, there is no quid pro quo. But Republican Senator Ron Johnson told the Wall Street Journal himself on the record to a reporter, back when the story was first breaking, that Sondland, quote, had described to him a quid pro quo. That's right. The guy who has said there was no quid pro quo had warned a Republican senator there was a quid pro quo. Number 5, keep in mind, Gordon Sondland, who was at the center of this, came and testified, and by all accounts, he was somewhat squirrely. There was a lot of stuff he didn't remember. After he testified, his own lawyer told a reporter that Sondland believed there was a quid pro quo. Okay, so the top U.S. diplomat in Ukraine, Bill Taylor, says quid pro quo. The Trump appointee who's on the other end of that text exchange, Gordon Sondland, his lawyer now says, yes, there was a quid pro quo. Both of them are working on the policy from notably different angles, but they are not the only people who saw a quid pro quo. Number 6, Fiona Hill. She's Trump's former top Russia aide on the National Security Council. She reportedly testified at a White House meeting with Ukrainian officials. They're in the White House, okay? Gordon Sondland just comes out and proposes a quid pro quo. And it was so obviously inappropriate that National Security Advisor John Bolton ends the meeting. He's like, well, no, can't do this. Get out of here, you crazy kids. And Bolton then referred to what Sondland and Chief of Staff Mick Mulvaney were cooking up as, quote, a drug deal. And after that meeting, Sondland takes Ukrainian officials aside, where he tells them, according to testimony, a meeting with Trump is conditioned on a public announcement of investigation of the Bidens. Number 7, we're still going. Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman. You've heard of him, right? Decorated war hero, assigned to the work of the National Security Council. A really interesting guy, fluent in Ukrainian and Russian. So this guy was so freaked out by everything that was going on that he goes to the NSC's top lawyer twice to raise red flags about it. And he also reportedly testified that he was convinced there was a quid pro quo even before Trump's infamous phone call with the Ukrainian president. Number 8. And there's Tim Morrison. He replaced Fiona Hill at the National Security Council. He should be the most sympathetic witness to the president. He still worked in the White House the day before he showed up. But in his hearing, Tim Morrison confirmed Bill Taylor's testimony that there was, in fact, a quid pro quo. And number 9, this is one little piece of evidence buried in the record. You might have missed it. That's the chief of staff to the president, Mick Mulvaney, got up in front of live cameras and just said to 330 million Americans, of course there was a quid pro quo.
Did he also mention to me in the past the corruption related to the DNC server? Absolutely. No question about that. But that's it. And that's why we held up the money. The look back to what happened in 2016 certainly was part of the thing that he was worried about in corruption with that nation. And that is absolutely appropriate.
So, if the standard for disturbing Lindsey Graham, who is as loyal to the president in Congress as anyone for whatever reason, is to show evidence of the quid pro quo outside the phone call, then the last 2 weeks should be very, very disturbing to Lindsey Graham and everybody else.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.